This is cs952, Introduction to Web Technology and Design, and now we're going to get started adding some content to our row that we just added. It's right here. I can click on it and design, and we're in live view because we can see up there at the top it says live view, but we want to switch to design view because, as I mentioned, when it comes particularly in the matter of typing and adding in text, I really find that design view works so much better than live view. In theory, you can do it in live view, but in practice, switch to design view. Okay? So here we are. There's almost no difference between the two. So I've clicked with my text right in here, and for me, my website's going to be called The Humble Pencil. So I'm going to type in The Humble Pencil. Okie dokie. And I'm going to hit enter. I have some additional text to add, but rather than you watching me type all of this, we actually have some files here where we can copy the content and paste it and save ourselves a little time. So if we click over here under Files, alrighty, and I'm going to close my Images folder, and I have a tutorial folder, and in the tutorial folder, if we open it up, if it's not already open, you can open up. There's a plain text file that's called Text Files. And Dreamweaver can open this file. So if we double click on it, it's just a plain old text file. And you'll see it has different text that we can just cut, copy, and paste. So I'm just going to highlight this line of text, and I'm going to right click and choose Copy. And then I'm going to go back to this page, and I'm going to right click and choose. We can choose Paste or Paste Special. If you're copying from Microsoft Word where you may have a lot of formatting, I recommend using Paste Special. In this case, we're copying plain text, so it's not going to make any difference, but I almost always use Paste Special because it gets rid of any special formatting that a text may have. And we're going to choose Text Only. Okay, there we go. I'm going to hit Return to start a new line. And what's the second line? It says pencils are great. I'm going to highlight that and hit Copy. And then go back over here. And again, I'm going to right click and choose Paste Special. So you want to paste it as text only? Yes. And say OK. And go back, copy the next line. And some pencils, right click and choose Copy. And then I'm going to hit the Enter key, make myself a new line, paste. I'm going to go back here to my text. We're almost there, got 2 left to go. Pencils are important. And hit Copy. And then go back over here and hit Return. Make myself a new line and hit Paste. I got 1 line left. I hope you will enjoy this site. So I'm going to highlight that text and hit Copy, and then go back over here and hit Return. It looks like, I need a period there. I'm going to hit Return, and again I'm going to right click and choose Paste Special, Paste as Text Only. Okay, great. So I'm going to hit Save real quick. Now I'm just using text that I wrote just for this website. By all means, if you've got something that you want to say about your website, be sure to use that text instead. Don't feel like this is absolutely the text that you need to be using. We're just doing this so that we have some placeholder text for our website. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to take where it says The Humble Pencil, right? I'm going to highlight that text. And we can see under Format, it's in the paragraph format. You may recall how to change the format. All we have to do is, once we've got that text highlighted, once I've dragged over it and highlighted, down here where it says Format, I can click on this and try out, well, what do different headings look like. The biggest one is H1, so I'm going to choose Heading 1 because I want this to stand out. This is what my website is all about. Now what I'd like to do is do a little bit of styling for my H1 tag. So I'm going to do this in my CSS Designer, right? I'm happy with the text. Anytime we want to change the way that things look, we make those changes in our CSS Designer. So I'm going to go to CSS Designer, and I'm going to make sure that I have H1 selected here. It's selected in my status bar. I can also see it in my DOM and my Document Object Model. And I'm going to create a new rule. So all the rules that we write that we use specifically for our website are contained in our styles file. I'm going to click on my styles.css file, and I want to make sure again, I already said this before, make sure we have H1 selected down here, and make sure that we have global selected, because the change that we're going to be making is global. It affects the whole site, right? So I've got CSS Designer, Styles under Sources, Global, and Add Media. We're going to be doing this a lot in this class, creating new style rules. So it says add a selector when I hover over the little plus button. And I'm going to say yes, let's add a selector. And we get a suggested selector by Dreamweaver, but it's quite a bit more than what we really need. We only want just the plain old H1. So if I hit the up arrow key once, it becomes less specific. If I hit the up arrow key again, it becomes even less specific, and that's all I want, H1. In other words, this is going to be a style rule for the H1 heading text. I'm going to hit enter. Okay, great. Now, I'm going to set some text properties for my H1 tag, and the first thing I'm going to do is align all of my text to the center. I'm going to double click on the word DOM to hide that, because we're just all about the CSS right now. Let me reorganize this so I can see a few more properties all at the same time. I'm just clicking and dragging on these separators just to make a little bit more room. Okay, so this rule, to review, we're saving this rule in our styles file. That's why it's blue and highlighted. It's going to be a global rule, meaning doesn't matter if you're using a desktop computer or smartphone, this rule will always be in effect. And we're doing it on H1, meaning any time that we use an H1, that's the biggest heading tag on our website, this is how the heading is going to appear. We want to center this text. So to center text, we can click on the little icon that takes us directly to the text properties. We're creating new rules for our H1 tag. And I'm going to click on the text align to the center. And when I do that, now my headline tag is centered. Now we learned another way to do this, right? We could assign it to the center text class. That's how we did it earlier for our footer. But then every time we would have an H1 tag, we'd always have to go back and assign it to that class. This is going to be one of these rules. Anytime you use the H1, center the text. Okay. Let's switch to live view. We're going to switch to live view so we can see a little bit more of what's going on. So there we have it. In live view now, it says the Humble Pencil. Now we can change the font family for our Humble Pencil, and we change the font family, what kind of font we use. We're in our text properties, right? And you can see there's a line under our properties that says font families. Let's click on that, and we get all kinds of font families listed over here. So what would it look like if we used Gill Sans Serif? It's Gill Sans Serif, not too much different. Impact is always really exciting. What does it look like with Impact? Pretty nice. Or we could try Constantina. I'm not sure what that looks like. Okay, that is what we call a serif font. It's got the little extra wingy doos on it. Probably not appropriate for the rest of the site. So what we have in this list are what we call font families, and they're fonts that when a font is in a font family, that means that they all look kind of similar. For instance, Constantia, the one that we have selected now, is very similar to Lucida Bright, very similar to Deja Vu Serif, similar to Georgia, and these are all serif fonts. The reason we have a long list of these, and then it ends with the word serif, is that because when our web page loads, we don't necessarily know what kind of computer is going to be loading our web page. Depending on what kind of computer it is, it may have different fonts pre-installed on the computer. And the look of our font may not be the same from one device to another. So we have a font family. We say, well, these all look kind of the same. And the web browser tries the first one. If it doesn't have that, then it tries the second one. The last item on the list just says serif, which means give me a font that doesn't have those little extra, I'm sorry, serif does have the little doodly things on the end. If we choose a sans serif font like Gotham, then you'll see the little extra decoration goes away. Well, we can go one step better than that now. We can use web fonts, and Dreamweaver has built-in support for web fonts, and web fonts are fonts that are loaded when your web page loads. So they're kind of like images, right? When your web page loads, the browser loads whatever that image is that you want people to see, works the same way. Your browser is going to load whatever kind of font you want. So how do we use web fonts with Dreamweaver? We go down here to Manage Fonts. And now Manage Fonts opens, and we get quite a few fonts to select from. Much bigger variety than what we had before. And also, these fonts are going to be loaded when our web page loads. So we have a greater degree of certainty that the page will look like what we want it to look like. And Adobe's also going to add a little extra JavaScript to make sure that these fonts load. So when we open up our Manage Fonts, you can see that these are divided into different categories. We have first item, list of sans fonts. So these are fonts without the little extra decoration. They look nice. Then we have serif fonts. They all have that little extra bit of decoration. This one says slab fonts. I'm not a font expert, so I'm not really sure what defines a font as a slab font. Then we have these are I don't know what you call these, fancier fonts. Then we have sort of Gothic looking kind of fonts. They call it black letter fonts. I'm sorry, this one was script fonts. This one is monospace fonts. These are fonts where every letter takes up the exact same space. Okay. These are very artistic. I think these are handwritten style fonts. Let's go ahead and look at these. And then our last group is decorative fonts. So you can choose any of these fonts to add to your site. So I like the ones in the handmade fonts. Let's see something that looks good. Okay, Happy Monkey. So how do I add Happy Monkey to my website? Well, you select Happy Monkey and then hit Done. Now, what that does is add Happy Monkey to your list of possible fonts. It's almost like a two-step procedure. If I go back here and I click my font family button again, now I can see that Happy Monkey has been added to my list of fonts. And I can click on Happy Monkey now. And now my Happy Monkey font is downloaded. There it is. Took it a second to load. It says the Humble Pencil. I'm going to go ahead and hit Save All right now because we've been at this for a little bit. And we get a message here from Dreamweaver. Update web fonts script tag in the following files. Absolutely 100% yes, we do want to do that. And I'm going to say update. So that's that extra bit of JavaScript that's going to run just to make sure that your web page has the right kind of font on it. And I'm going to close my update page message. And this is probably a good place to take a break